So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the ADDAZERO podcast.
Hi, I'm Jay Allen from ADDAZERO, and this week we're talking about spinning plates. No, I'm not talking about being at the fairground ride or entertaining your kids with those sticks and the plates and everything. I'm talking about the metaphor of the amount of things that you're currently doing on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. I spent a couple of weeks recently with a client who's going through some significant transitional changes within their business. And one of the things that I noticed was the challenges that they're currently facing, being committed to all of the things that need some consideration. Now, don't get me wrong, change is a challenging time for anybody in business, and particularly with a bigger business, there's lots of considerations to make. But one of the things that I was very conscious of is the more things that we have consideration of, the less time we have to be able to fully give thought and considerations to how to be able to implement and move forward. So we sat down and I conducted an exercise with them that I'm inviting you to do as we listen to this podcast today. Just write out a list of all of the things on your current to-do list. I sat with this client and I said, listen, I just want to be understanding of all of the things, both personal and professional, that are currently taking up time in your mind. I need to understand as to all of the considerations that you feel that you've got to be able to apply some time and effort to. And sure enough, the pen came out and there was a frantic scribbling as the juices started to flow and the list started to grow. And interestingly, I watched as some of the things that were written on the list then subsequently prompted other things to be thought about and added to the list also. But as the list continued, I started to become a little bit more concerned. So much so that I got up and went off for a coffee whilst the client was busy scribbling. Eventually, when we sat down and we looked at the list, I was quite horrified to see that he'd written 85 things on his current to-do list. There were 85 considerations rattling round inside that were taking up thought and idea and consideration and brain power that he was having to mull over and run from one plate to the other all the time, trying to be able to keep everything moving forward. And the simple fact is, the more that you've got on your plate, the less that you get done. I know it's quite a weird concept, and probably we can accept that as a word, but in actual fact, when we look at it, the amount of time it takes to be able to move from one activity to another, and then to another, and then to another, and then back to the first one, because there are so many different parts in play at the one time, the more time that we spend juggling between whoever's shouting loudest or the most demanding deadline is the least progress that we make on any of those things. And what we need to do is to be able to use something called the Eisenhower matrix. So today I'm inviting you to be able to have a practical exercise to be able to understand where is your thinking and how do we stop spinning quite so many plates. What I need you to do is to take out a pen and a blank sheet of paper and simply draw a cross on the piece of paper. It doesn't matter which axis that you use, but on one axis we're going to look at time, and on the other axis we're going to look at importance. On the time axis we're going to have urgent and less urgent, and on the importance axis we'll have unimportant and critically important. And then that list of things that you've currently got on your to-do list, be it 1, 2 or 3 or 85, drop me a comment or something if you've got more than that on your to-do list. But once you've got a list of all of the things that are currently on the outstanding list, the things to do, I want you to then plot onto this graph where are you spending most of your time? Are you spending time in the urgent critical? Are you firefighting? Are you constantly having to do things on the hop against a tight deadline, burning the midnight oil, whatever you want to call it? Or are you spending less time in critical and more time in less important tasks? Are you doing things that aren't moving the needle forward as quickly as they possibly could? Are you getting bogged down in the detail of the business rather than being able to either outsource or allocate or delegate to somebody else? Are you spending time in the weeds, doing the doing, moving back into business operator as opposed to constantly pushing to stay in business owner, business leader? Or are you spending time on important stuff that's not yet urgent? Important, it's things that I should be doing, but it's not yet time critical because I've scheduled and planned it in. And interestingly, when we did this exercise, we found that of the 85 things on the list, most things on the list were important but urgent. And the things that weren't in that category were in unimportant but urgent. We were spending so much time below the line in things that are time sensitive, but without spending enough time above the line on strategic stuff. We were being reactive rather than proactive. And by using the Eisenhower matrix, we can look at where do we spend our time so we can understand what we need to be able to do next. Now, for this particular client, we were able to identify, by utilising a relatively simple tool, on how to be able to manage the time in the thinking as much as the doing. What things we could either park, which plates that we could take off and put to one side, and which other plates could we pass to other members of the team that weren't important or critical, that the business owner had a day-to-day involvement in. How do we allocate responsibility that the plate continues to spin, but without the need for the business owners to be able to continue to spin it? And we were able to identify through a process of elimination what was going to be able to make the biggest difference to the business and how much bigger difference it would make if we were to able to remove all of those additional considerations that were currently taking up time and effort and consideration. There's a study that's been done that looks at cranial activity against creativity and productivity. They're able to wire up your heads to a machine and scan where are you using your brain power and its effectiveness in a workplace setting. And what they found was if you've got more than 3 or 4 things that you're thinking about, it has a massive detrimental impact on your productivity on anything that you subsequently do. If you walk into my office now, you'll see that I've got 2 whiteboards on the side of my office in visual shot where I'm sat at my desk. On the left-hand board is covered in to-dos. It's got post-it notes, it's got clip-on boards, it's got scribbles, it's got attachments and printouts from the printer. It's covered in ideas. As an entrepreneur, we are constantly thinking and evolving and devising new and different ways to be able to grow and evolve either our business or to help others to do so. And my left-hand board is a visual representation of my mind at any one place in time. There's lots going on. Some of it's colour coordinated, but all I can say is it's busy. On the right-hand board, it's very, very uniformed and it's equally divided into 3 separate segments. On the left-hand segment, it's highlighted and says short-term task. In the middle, it says mid-term task. And on the right-hand side, long-term task. Now, you get to determine as to what those timeframes are. I would recommend that perhaps when we first implement this exercise, that short-term might be today, mid-term might be this week, long-term might be a month. When I first implemented this, they were the timeframes that I implemented. We've subsequently been able to build those out, and now short-term is a month, mid-term is a quarter, and long-term is beyond this quarter. It's bigger projects. But beneath those titles, I am not allowed to put anything more than one thing on the board at any one time. I can take anything off my ideas board on the left, but I'm only allowed to implement one of those in each of those segments. One thing that I want to achieve within this month, one thing that I'm going to be working on consistently to try and achieve within this quarter, and something else that I'd like to achieve before the end of the year that perhaps isn't pressing into this quarter. And therefore, I can segment my time that when I'm working on the business, that I can look to my board and say, well, today I need to be working on X because I've got to achieve that by the end of this quarter. I'm breaking down the goal into bite-sized chunks that I can chip away at on a day-to-day basis, knowing full well that my time is being better spent by having fewer things on the desk. I've got lots of ideas, but I've got 3 things that I'm working on at any one time. And I'm not allowed to be able to put something else onto my to-do board until I've removed one of those things from it. One thing in each access, short-term, mid-term, long-term. And it's only by learning to spin less plates, either by having these are all the nice to-dos that I'm going to be working on next, and I can look at that board and be excited about the other things that are yet to come without being overwhelmed by trying to do all of them at any one time. And then the other point is that there are some things on my to-do list that I'm not the best person in the business to do them. There are other people in my business that are probably better suited to doing that in its entirety. And I would be better suited giving them that role and saying, there's a project for you. How long do you think you might be able to fit this in? Or when can you fit this in? What could we do with this together? What resources do you need from the business so you could take charge of this? As opposed to me holding on to things in this tiny, small object, small business syndrome where I've got to have a touch and feel of everything that happens. So learning to spin less plates allows us to be far more productive than trying to have lots of things on the go at any one time. Now, I know what you're going to say to me, Jay, it's exactly what this client said to me a fortnight ago. Jay, that's all right for you to do. You've already got the structure and the organisation to do so. If I let any one of these slip right now, it's going to have a detrimental impact. Well, I'm not saying just walk away and start again, although that might be the eventual result of choosing what you choose to do next. What I am saying is that this is something to work towards that enables you to be able to have a clearer mind, a clearer desk, and a clearer direction of travel that allows you to be able to do less and achieve more. So, if you want to be able to spin less plates, if you want to be able to learn how to be able to maneuver from there into something that's a lot more structured and organised, and you have already implemented the Eisenhower matrix and start to see the impact of where you're spending your time, then over on our YouTube channel, I've got a great video that I recorded recently called How to Become More Selfish So You Can Become Selfless. I'll make sure that I put a link in the show notes, and I advocate that you go and watch that now, because at the moment, because of the busyness of your mind and of your thinking, the chances are that you're helping everybody else to succeed at the expense of your success also. drop me a message below or email podcast@mytruenorth.biz if you'd like anything from the show that's resonated with you. And I'd love to be able to share some more thoughts and ideas. One, about the Eisenhower, and two, the 4 things that I helped that client to do that over the next quarter was able to be able to shed a lot of the responsibility and to concentrate on moving forward with a lot more strength and confidence that letting go of some of those less important plates is actually making far better progress on the things that he should be working on. God bless, take care. I'll see you again next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the ADDAZERO podcast, presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.